the ton of bricks that hit me over the head, one night was every single project that the MEP design firm completes here in New York City requires a special inspector, commissioning, and concrete testing. So not only was, if I could figure out a way to make this deal happen, which I really didn't know how I was going to do that. I was just a little one-man show, or at the time I was maybe a 10 or 15 person company, and I certainly wasn't a multimillionaire. How am I going to acquire a company?
Welcome to the Fueling Deals Podcast, the podcast that teaches how to accelerate your business growth through all types of deals. It's time to fuel up, so buckle in with your host, Corey Kupfer.
There are only two ways to grow your business: organically through sales and marketing and providing great products and services, and inorganically through deals. Too many companies focus only on the first way, organic growth. Welcome to the podcast, which will help accelerate your business growth inorganically. My guests are a huge variety of deal makers and experts on all types of deals who have personal experience that can help you grow, get clear, learn best practices, and avoid mistakes. We discuss everything from large, complex mergers and acquisitions to smaller deals that you can do even without significant capital. My guest today is Matt Wavro. Matt has over 20 years of experience in the construction industry, including design, commissioning, materials testing, contracting, and special inspections. As founder and managing partner of Skyline Engineering, he's provided overall leadership and technical support for the design, commissioning, materials testing, and special inspections teams. Matt's experience includes data centers, office space, higher education, financial services, retail, healthcare, high-rise, residential, and trading floor projects. Matt is an industry leader in engineering and special inspections industry. He started Skyline Engineering as a one-man show in 2010 and has grown the firm to comprise 4 engineering service divisions with over 70 employees across 3 offices in New York City. And we're going to get to talk about some of the ways he's grown the company inorganically, in addition to, I'm sure, the organic growth he's had. I'm thrilled to have you on the show, Matt. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So, Matt, before we get into a little bit more about what you do and how you've grown the business through deals, I want to take you back. And when you were a little kid growing up, what did you want to be? Because, I don't know, maybe an engineer and building an engineering company and doing deals to grow that was it. But odds are at 6, 8, 10, 12, maybe not. So tell me, what was it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I didn't even know what an engineer was. But when you talk to many engineers, you find out that they love to take things apart and find out how they worked. And that was certainly me. So yeah, I would take things apart, find out how they worked. I'll have to credit one of my favorite toys as a youngster was an erector set, which I don't know if anyone remembers that or had one, but
Sure.
I think that was it right there. The erector set, and the rest is history. But all through school, didn't even really know what an engineer was. Knew I loved science and had a science background. And when I was able to get mathematics and physics to show me how I can use math and physics to build things in the world, that was when the engineer was born.
It's funny, Matt, because growing up, I was never that kid who could take things apart and put it back together. But I had a younger brother, he's 5 years younger than me. And, he would be 6, 7 years old and this is back in the days of transistor radios or whatever. And like the radio, the transistor radio would break and he would, at 7 or 8, whatever, would take it apart, put it back together, and somehow it would work. And I had never understood how he could do that. And he became an architect. So, it's
there you go.
Interesting. And so, Matt, what was your first real business, however you define that?
First real business. That's also a great question. So, I was always into science and animals and technology. And would you believe my first business was called Matt's Mice? I had some pet mice, and they had some babies. And I raised the babies, and I ended up selling them to schoolmates, and keeping some, and ended up with several tanks in the garage. And I used there were barely computers back then. We're talking about 1982 or something like that. And the storage, I created a program where I could enter in the the number of mice and the dollars sold and all this stuff. And I kept track of it on a tape deck. So it wasn't even a CD. It was actually almost like a tape recorder was the storage device. Very interesting.
Wow. So you effectively created, your own Excel-like spreadsheet and started on tape.
Yes, that was the entrepreneur that I really didn't know was in me. It was just kind of natural.
I love it. So Matt, tell us. I mean, we covered a lot of it in your, in your bio, but just give us another minute or two on what your company does, and then we'll delve into some of the ways you grew through deals.
Yeah. So Skyline is it's a very unique company. It became a unique company after my first acquisition. But we do. I believe we're very unique, in New York City, in that we do so many different things that no other company does as many of the services that we do. So we're an MEP design firm. So we design mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and sprinkler systems for buildings. We're primarily in the building construction business as opposed to bridges, roads, and tunnels. Okay.
Yeah.
So we build buildings. We also have structural design in the office. We provide a service called special inspections, which is essentially an arm of the New York City Department of Buildings. So there is a Department of Buildings that does inspections, but it's really limited to TCOs and things like that. The real inspections have been outsourced to a type of company called a special inspection agency, which is what I created from scratch in 2010, having had other history in the business. So we do design, we do inspections, we do commissioning. So commissioning is a step beyond just inspecting. Commissioning is actually functionally testing equipment. So chillers, refrigeration machines, air conditioning, fans, generators, that sort of equipment. So we functionally test to make sure it's performing properly versus just saying, yes, it's here, and it's connected properly. So, and that's something that's required by the energy code here in New York City. And then the fourth part of the company is a materials testing laboratory, which is not an easy thing to build from scratch, although that's what we did. So many companies just kind of stay away from the whole concrete testing side of things. But so the company has, all four divisions all rolled into one. We could take a project from basically concept phase all the way through design, construction, materials testing, quality control, and even make sure it works right. So ensuring total quality from beginning to end.
That's great. And you've already alluded to the fact that part of the way you got there to have this comprehensive offering, which seems to look pretty unique in the industry, is through deals. And before I ask about any of that, I want to hear about that first deal and the subsequent ones. But I have a question for you that is more, you started as a solo guy, right? And you launched this business, and so many companies just hustle to try to get clients and do, basically market and do whatever they need to do for organic growth, which I'm sure you did as well. But what was it? I want to get into the mindset before we speak about any of the specific deals. Because one of the things I say in my outro is always that the only difference between companies that grow inorganically and those that don't, and it's unrelated to size, et cetera, is that somebody makes a decision to do deals. So what was it that had you, mindset-wise, say, hey, I'm not just going to focus on organic growth, but I'm also going to look at ways to do deals to grow my business?
Yeah, so I have a pretty rich history in the design part of the field from my previous companies. But when I started Skyline, I was doing third-party services, and I was growing the company very organically, just like you said. I accumulated a lot of work very quickly, started hiring help, and then the company just kind of grew very organically from there. So what happened was an opportunity came up, believe it or not, on LinkedIn to possibly acquire an MEP design firm, which is where my roots are. So I have 15 years of roots as a design engineer working for a very large firm, here in the city. And Skyline had really gotten away from the design aspect and focused more on third-party inspection services. But now here's an opportunity to acquire an MEP design firm. So I said to myself, oh boy, I left the design world, behind me for a little bit. I was enjoying what I was doing, but then I started to realize, what was really going on. It wasn't just expanding services and acquiring an MEP design firm, but what the ton of bricks that hit me over the head, one night was every single project that the MEP design firm completes here in New York City requires a special inspector, commissioning, and concrete testing. So not only was, if I could figure out a way to make this deal happen, which I really didn't know how I was going to do that, I was just a little one-man show, or at the time I was maybe a 10 or 15 person company, and I certainly wasn't a multimillionaire. How am I going to acquire a company? I was almost going through the motions just to kind of see what it was about, without having the full intention of going through with it, because I really didn't know that I would find a way to do it. So, but when I realized that what if we came together, what that would create is a very unique firm, and I would basically be feeding my existing company with work from the already established, successful MEP engineering firm. It was almost a no-brainer. I said to myself, "Oh my God, I have to do this. I have to figure out a way."
So yeah, I want to get into how you figured out a way, because I'm loving. I don't know this story, listeners, right? So I'm hearing it for the first time as well, and I'm excited to hear it because too many people, I think, assume you had that hesitation, like, how am I going to get this deal done? Right? We're a small company. I'm one guy. I'm whatever. I have and so many people stop there, and then they don't think they can get the deal done, and they don't even pursue it. But you did, Matt. So tell us, let our listeners know what it took to get that deal done, because like you said, you didn't have millions of dollars sitting around to write a check, right?
Exactly. So, just like I organically grew the business from day one, I try to use my team, right? I have a business consultant that I would go to that kind of helped me set up, insurance and payroll and all those kinds of things. Through him, I found an accountant, and I would constantly be running. I'd be meeting with these guys occasionally, and checking in and seeing how things are going, and get input. So obviously, my bank is also a member of that team, and we started with a very small line of credit to get us through the payroll ups and downs. And I went to my bank and said, "Look, this is an opportunity. How can we get this to happen?" And they mentioned the SBA, the Small Business Administration, could review the case, if you will, and see if this is something that they would they can offer a loan to buy the company with very little down, very small percentage of down payment, and then another tool, something called like an earnout, right? Where and I guess this is very popular in the I'm basically in the service industry, right? So the existing partners of the firm that I was purchasing, obviously having them continue to be involved in the company is very important for engineers, because it's all about relationships. So what you do to keep them from just walking away and just all their customers walking with them is you have something called like an earnout. So in other words, you can defer some of the money to 3 years down the road. So that comes off what has to come out of your pocket. So we were able to work some numbers out and get it to the point where I could afford the loan. I can afford the down payment. I did have a little bit of cash in the bank, and then with the deferred earnout, we were able to make it happen. And by looking at financials of each firm alone by itself, and then the potential of when they come together, my bank was able to secure that loan.
Yeah, so there's so much in, listeners, there's so much in what Matt's said here, right? So I want to just sort of break down a couple of things before we have him go on. And that is, first of all, I want to break down some assumptions and limiting beliefs, and I also want to break down some of the aspects of the deal structure. So first of all, there's this saying out there, right, that everybody, it's very common to say that banks will only lend you money when you don't need it, right? And listen, there's some truth to that if you have zero, collateral and no money to put down and, no credit and whatever, it's tough to get money. But this is a case where, the bank, I'm sure, was underwriting largely based upon, in part, obviously based upon their relationship with you and their history, and on whatever level of success you had. But also they were looking at the opportunity of the cash flow that would come in from the company you were acquiring. And I'm sure it was, it must have been a profitable company. So, one of the things for the listeners is, you should not assume that bank financing is not available, especially, through the SBA, which is willing to, has the underwriting criteria isn't as strict. And the big thing is, as Matt said, the down payment is, requirements a lot lower. So that's one aspect of the transaction. And then the other ones are, the earnout concept, right? It's another big piece of the pie that Matt didn't have to write a check out front. And I'm sure he and his accountant ran projections, and so did the bank in the underwriting process to determine that the cash flow of the company would, help support that earnout payment. So, those are just a couple of things. And then the last piece is keeping is keeping the key players involved so that the clients stay. And that was part of the reasons, to do the earnout. So those are some key, points that I've heard there that sounds like, help get the deal done, and they could for you as well, listeners. So yeah, Matt, any thoughts on those things? I think you laid them out very nicely.
Yeah. So, a big part of getting the banks, I had known my bank for a very long time on a personal level. Yep. And when I started Skyline, I walked into the bank and I said, I just started an LLC, and I opened the account with $100.
Right.
And they love that story. And every year it was, I'm doing my taxes, and it goes from $100 to $100,000 to $500,000 to $1.2 million. And they're like, oh my God, like how is this possible? And I'm like, well, it's a new and emerging business, and I have the relationships, and it's something that not a lot of people are doing in New York City, and I was able to grow it. But the part of the confidence after seeing the growth in Skyline by itself, the organic part of it, is the receivables. So they would, and they continue to do it to this day. Every monthly we submit how much money we're owed in the various time spans, 0 to 30, 30 to 60, etc. And then what was my receivables for Skyline? What was my receivables for the engineering company? And together they become X, and they loan to us based upon a percentage of those receivables, and which continue to rise today, which is great. And they keep as our payroll continues to increase, as we bring on more people on both sides of the firm, as does our line of credit, which gives us a little leeway, and to be able to grow.
So that's great. So that's another deal, right? A financing deal with the bank, which is so the bank has both financed acquisitions but also financed receivables for working capital and growth, which is great. Let's go back to that first acquisition for a second. Tell us a little bit more about, did the sellers, the founders of that company, stay on for a temporary period of time, a long period of time? And then also, what was the integration like? Because that's something that people underestimate sometimes, is the successful integration, whether that's on a cultural basis, on a human resource basis, on a technology basis, on a, you name it, systems basis. Sometimes people will underestimate the integration challenges post-acquisition. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So the principles, they remain principles today. And this deal was done in 2017. And it took about a year we worked on it for about a year. So the idea was that they were not looking to retire and walk away. They were looking for a quote unquote plan for retirement, which was great because they had built a company for almost 30 years together, two partners. The firm was about 30 people, had a great client base, really great reputation in the industry. And everyone, including my consultants, was concerned about how long are they going to stay, and and our clients are very, we're in the beginning, we're very concerned about that. I'll come back to that. But they continue to wish to work for a very long time. I mean, 3 to 5 to 7 years. One of the principals actually has a son working here right now, and he's loving life. He gets to come to work every day, and his son is here, and he gets to groom him, and he has a lot of the pressure of running the business, off his shoulders. Although these guys, I have to say, everyone is my team is just thrilled to death that this deal actually worked, because they've seen so many deals. My attorney is a mergers and acquisitions attorney, and he's a very close friend. And he was so cautious, and really wanted to see this work for me. But he had seen so many deals go wrong that we did our homework, and I assured him of the comfort level that I had, and these are great guys, and they continue to work really, 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 really hard. I mean, they come to work every day. They work full time. They write proposals. They manage the entire side of the office. It's really great. It's really, really great. And my whole team is really, really happy for me that this deal actually worked, and it didn't fall apart like so many deals that they've seen happen where things just go bad and sour and all that stuff. But it's going fantastic.
So 2 questions on that. You mentioned some concerns about from the clients in the beginning. So I'd love to hear how you got over those. And also, why did this one work? Do you feel like you did, good due diligence on the personalities, on the, on the cultural integration? What did you do right?
Yeah. So on the concern of the clients, this industry is really built on relationships. So we have architects and we have developers that have been working with these guys for 10 to 15 years. So when the news got out that, and you know what? It's funny. It was an asset acquisition, an asset purchase, but to everyone out in the world, it was a merger. And in the beginning, I thought acquisition was a stronger word. I'd see web email blasts and things like that about this firm acquires this firm, and I said, wow, I want to be Skyline acquires Rodkin Cardinale. But then someone talked some sense to me and says, no, that's almost a hostile type of language, and they said merger, and it sounds much more soft. And it didn't take long for me to figure out that was the right way to phrase this. So when the word did get out and we made a big announcement, the principals immediately got several phone calls and emails, oh my God, are you retiring? Are you leaving? What's happening? And we spent a good month or 2 or 3, I'll call it damage control, but nothing really happens, but it was the principals had to assure our existing clients that they weren't going anywhere for a very, very long time.
Right.
And it took a while. Maybe 6 to 9 months before they actually believed them, but they truly believe them now, and they are here, and it's been several years now, and I've been integrating for several years and getting to know all the clients just as well as they know them. So really, really important, because in this business, those relationships once they disappear, they would just move on to the next guy. They'd be sad about it, but they'd have no choice, and that's what they would do. But we were able to maintain those relationships and even grow them. As a matter of fact, several clients for years before the merger would say, "Hey guys, how come you don't do special inspections? How come you don't do commissioning?" And what they were happy about was now they get the chance to say, "Yes, we do.
Right.
We do that now." So they were just as excited about it as I was.
Just a couple of things I hear, that I want to, again, sort of point out for the listeners is that, this was a very strategic acquisition, right? Sometimes there are financial acquisitions or growth for geography, expansion and things like that. But this is where there's a bunch of synergies where now you can cross-sell and upsell, other services to so that's a huge reason why people do deals. And then, the thing with, these guys staying on for 3, 5, 7 years. Especially in a service business, and this is applies to Matt's business. It applies to you name it: investment advisory firms, accounting firms, any consulting firms, IT, any service business. It's why you need to do these deals earlier than most people try to do them, to have the most options and the most success, because too many people wait till they have a health issue or they're just sick of it. Now they're a year from retirement, 6 months, and they just want out. And the problem is, in a relationship business, which most service businesses are, you're not going to maintain as many clients as if you did it the way Matt's done it, where you say, hey, this is a succession solution for these guys, but they're not going anywhere for a while.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Great.
So Matt, you've done deals with your bank, whether it's your receivables funding, your SBA loan. You've done this one acquisition. Any other deals that you've done to help grow your company?
Well, we've formed some strategic alliances.
Great. Let's talk about those.
And we do have another deal that's kind of in the works. So some strategic alliances. So a big part of construction in New York City, and certainly with public work, like work for the city or the state, is MWBE. That's Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises. There are goals for MWBE participation in projects. So we formed some alliances with other inspection agencies that are MWBEs, and we've been able to take a project and basically have sub 30% of it out to an MWBE and be able to help satisfy the MWBE goals for the project. That's some of the things that we've done.
And that's a great area. I've done some of those deals, and listeners, it's a great area because there are these, requirements, and some of them are governmental. So some of them are even in corporate deals. So, some of the big companies have requirements from the MWBE participation, and at the same time, some of these MWBE companies need some additional capacity, to be able to fulfill some of these contracts, because some of them tend to be smaller and et cetera. So it works out really well because the majority-owned company like Matt's gets access to contracts and projects they wouldn't otherwise be able to sometimes, and the MWBE company gets in on the deal and is able to provide services with the support of the strategic alliance company partner like Matt's company on jobs that are sometimes bigger or more complex than they can handle on their own.
Yeah, I have to give credit to the company. A lot of the ways that we have grown has been through me seeing an opportunity. So I'm a mechanical engineer by background. So I started doing mechanical inspections, and I was given advice to, hey, Matt, you need to have your company do not only the mechanical, but the structural as well. And I said, hey, that's a good idea. Become the one-stop shop. And they're like, yeah, exactly. Because, an owner wants to hire one company to do all their inspections. So I went out, I started branching into structural inspections. And then, you can see that the large construction projects, again, on that one-stop shop, aspect is they want you to have a concrete testing laboratory under your umbrella, not just have it as a subcontract. So that's when I built a concrete testing laboratory. Now I can say I'm truly, a one-stop shop, because now I have my own lab. So, on that note, as I was young in the industry, maybe 2 or 3 years, I had a gentleman join me who became one of my structural directors. So he was in charge of the structural division. He worked with me for a good couple of years. We got along great. Wonderful guy, wonderful engineer, very experienced. And he got whisked away for his dream job. So he's Colombian. He speaks Spanish. He's a PE. And some company said, hey, we need an engineer who can speak Spanish to basically run their own little engineering company and support what we do. So he says, Matt, I'm sorry, this is my dream job come true. I have to go. I said, by all means, best wishes, best of luck. We'll see what happens, right? So he did that for 5 years, and then that company decided they didn't want to be in the engineering business anymore. So they were going to get rid of his little division. So he calls up and tells me this, and he says, "Hey, is there anything that you think we can do together?" I said, "Absolutely." So things kind of come full circle. So he actually had an engineering company set up, which is what he did the engineering under for a large German steel manufacturing company. And we saw an opportunity to partner with him. And he's a minority, he's a 100% owner. And so we saw an opportunity to, again, form even a stronger strategic alliance. So he's now, we have a relationship now where I can subcontract work to his company, and we're now growing his company. So we're getting it certified as a special inspection agency. We're even considering and have the wheels in progress for basically taking my laboratory and shifting it under his umbrella, which would allow us to get a lot of the city and public work and satisfy MWBE requirements. Also, a lot of our developers here in the city, although they're not doing public work directly for the city, but there is an MWBE goal, and I can tell you it was like a knife in the heart when we designed a 500,000 square foot building, very, very, very large project, and on the design side, and now I'm going after the inspections, and they said, Matt, we'd love to give you the concrete testing, but we have to give it to an MWBE, and at the time I didn't have that set up, and it was like, again, knife in the heart. So I said, man, we got to figure out a way to at least get concrete testing or some portion of the company certified as an MWBE, so that we can help these clients out, and take a little bit more of the pie. So that's something that's actually in progress right now, like as we speak. So it's great. It's a very small world. Obviously, everyone knows, especially in New York City construction and engineering, we all know each other. You got to keep your relationships. You never know what's going to happen. And here I have a trusted friend who worked for me, left, came back, and now we're working on another relationship that is going to be a fantastic one. I'm really looking forward to it.
Matt, one of the things that I can hear, because I hear the way you speak about people, whether it's your partners in the firm that you acquired, or it's this gentleman who left and now you have a relationship with him. You speak highly of them, and one of the things that one of the challenges I think people have in doing deals, whether it's mergers, acquisitions, strategic alliances, et cetera, is ego, right? Or their unwillingness to share profits and decision making, or So do you have any thoughts on what you obviously are successful at that, and you haven't had the kind of personality clashes with the key people, and you've figured out how to divide the pie, and you figured out how it works for everybody. Have any thoughts on how you do that so successfully?
I guess I just have to say it's natural. Uh-huh. I've always been a nice guy. People say, "Wow, you're such a nice guy," and I just have to say that the personality, is probably a big reason for my success. And that comes from confidence and getting a good foundation in engineering and family, of course. But yeah, it's a huge part of success in this industry, is being able to communicate with people and deal and work with people. I have to credit my martial arts training too, for being able to deal with situations which come up every day. People are always saying to me, "Wow, that guy was really angry. There was a conflict in the field, and we walk away laughing and hugging each other, and they say, "Well, how did you do that?" I go, I don't really know. It's natural. It's part of the my personality. But personalities are really, really important. The principles of Rock and Cardinale, also great guys, very nice guys, and we immediately bonded and I'm able to not push too hard for change and see their side of things, and we kind of go back and forth, and I really don't have a lot of ego. It's if something's broke, we try to fix it, and I have direction, but I'm always willing to listen, and I'm fair, and that's what you need. And what's great is all the members of the firm, are that way, and that's why we're able to get along, so well. They tell me that one big reason that Skyline and me stuck out. I mean, there were other firms that were interested in the company, of course,
Sure.
and they were all, I'll call them traditional MEP firms. So it would be your traditional acquisition, right? An MEP firm buys an MEP firm, fires half of them, takes over, takes the clients, the list, and off you go. What they liked about me was that I offered something different. It was an expansion of services. It was a very synergistic, relationship. The firm became stronger and could offer more, versus just being acquired by someone else. I'm sure they liked the personality, as well, and they're great guys. We're having a good time. We love what we do. Those guys love what they do. Which is why they just continue to work so hard. To see the success of the now Skyline is in everyone's best interest. So it's really going great, and I'm really proud and happy to say that.
That's great. Before I ask you my final question, Matt, I'm sure people have gotten a lot of value from your deal experience. They've gotten to know what your company does, which is clearly pretty unique in the New York City construction business. If they want to reach out to you or learn more about your company, what's the best place to do that?
Well, we have a pretty good website. A lot of information on it about the company and the origins and the 4 divisions. Our website is skylinenyc.net. So that's skylinenyc.net. It's got all the information about what we do. It's a great place to start.
Excellent. And folks, if you're driving or whatever and you didn't get that, it's going to be in the show notes. So just check the show notes. You'll be able to find out, check that website and check out Matt. So Matt, my final question that I always ask on the podcast is about authenticity. And for me, that's one of my highest values. And it's not about external morals or integrity. It's about living a life, building a business, making business decisions, doing deals that are in alignment with our inner truth. Like that, because I've seen too many entrepreneurs who build something based upon external pressures or ego or whatever, and then they get there and then they're not, they're like, what did I just build? And you seem really happy with what you've created and continue to create. So for me, that's a conversation of alignment and authenticity. I'm wondering what authenticity means to you and how it's played out, in the way you make business decisions.
Yeah. So, it's funny. The whole thing is almost accidental. I love engineering. I became an engineer. I was working in a very large company, which I probably would have become a partner at, just due to my, technical experience and personality and stuff like that. But I stepped away from that and started doing something, for myself on my own, having no idea that it would be a 70-person firm. And in 5 years, I could probably be saying to myself, I had no idea it would become a 150-person firm. So, it's just, I just keep doing what I love, which is the engineering field. And, I got bit by the entrepreneur, bug. But all of it, kind of almost found me, or I see an opportunity and I would see if it made sense and I would go after it. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I again, never in a million years would I think that I was the owner of a 70-person firm right now that actually had an acquisition. I mean, it was the whole thing still blows my mind. So that's all I can say about that is that this was never in the cards, but here we are, and I find a way to make it work. And when you do what you love, it's not work, right? That's just what I tell my kids and my family.
Yeah, totally. And the other big piece that I do see that you mentioned is that, unlike some other people, when opportunities present themselves, you've trusted and taken advantage of the ones that seem right. And some people don't do that. And you've done that, and you've given several examples of that on this podcast.
Yeah, you have to take those opportunities, and you do have to kind of trust in yourself. And what I say to myself a lot, almost daily, is failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. We're going to find a way to make this work, and that's you work at it, you find a way to make things happen. But certainly wasn't easy to leave a 100-year-old firm where I had pension and very solid future and all the stability you can imagine. And this is in 2010 now, in the middle of a recession, and say, I'm going to start my own thing. A lot of people thought I was probably really crazy, but it was something that drove me. And, I get things, spiritually from the universe. And it was something that I was just meant to do. And just sitting here talking to you and, owning a 70-person firm says to me, I made the right decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I totally get that. Matt, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Corey. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, Fueling Deals listeners, for tuning in. Remember, there's only one difference between companies that grow inorganically and those that don't. And it's unrelated to size, amount of capital, or any other factor. Other than that, the owners and executives of companies that do deals make a decision to do deals, and then they take action. Well, it's time to refuel. So until next week, Corey Kupfer signing out.
Thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to leave Fueling Deals a rating and review on iTunes and Google. Check out all our episodes at fuelingdeals.com to find out more resources to accelerate your business growth.